I know it's a big school. But so just keep trying. It'll happen.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm going to Google what dragon boating is because I have no idea, but clearly interesting things are happening around campus. So certainly all of those things you should give it a try. On the other side of the coin, also keep in mind, of course, pursue deep and meaningful friendships. I found deep and meaningful friendships in my college years. People find significant others during college years. All of these are things to pursue. It's absolutely okay to desire that. At the same time, insofar as finding a fit is a stressful mission to find a clique, its purchases rapidly declining as you're moving into your 20s. What that was in high school does not remain that. It remains much more, it becomes a lot more important not to fit with a certain group of just monolithic individuals and be that and dress like them and listen to the same music and pretend that you're cool and everybody else isn't. But it becomes a lot more important to be kind and open to other folks, and as long as you can be kind and open, you will do absolutely fine, not only in college, but in life in general.
Oh, it's so true, and some amazing answers from all three of our professors on that one. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I really resonate with a lot of that too, because in all honesty, I was kind of that student, even at the end of my first year, who was like, I love this university and there's so much to do. It's almost overwhelming. But then the more that I was open and the more that I pursued those things that I was really passionate about, the more I sort of found the people that I love and the people that I really care about here. So thank you very much for all of those answers. Professors, I know I sent you a lot of questions. We might skip around a little bit just because of time. So one question I did want to ask is there any single thing that if a student or most students taking your course did would significantly improve their experience? And it could be academic or more on the personal side. Just is there one step that you wish more people would take? And again, maybe we'll start with volunteers on this one as well. Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to repeat the obvious. Attend class and participate. Attendance doesn't include participation. So make sure you read your syllabus and understand, like in the classes I teach, 15% of your grade is participation. Yes, Erol. Syllabus, people, syllabus. Yeah. So read the syllabus in Blackboard, just like I said, every week, because I get questions 2/3 of the way through the semester that I'm like, it's in your syllabus. It's in your syllabus. Then I'm like backing up. Dear Connor, thanks for the email. Did you check your syllabus? Here it is. Because after you get about a dozen of those, it's like, but I think really attending class, and I like the thing Connor said about doing the homework, but definitely don't, because that's a slippery slope. I know from my own college years, I made the mistake of taking Latin my freshman year, which was not just a 1 semester class, it was a full year of Latin at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I took bad advice from my mother who said, oh, that'll help you with all your languages. No, it helped me pass the first semester, and then I failed the second semester. And thank goodness I was taking voice lessons. Talk about, pursuing other things outside your major, because I was a poli-sci major, American government major too. Is to, if I had just gone to class, I would have been, at least half of the way there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And also, I would never send an email. It's quite like that.
I just used you. You were a safe yeah. Example.
Of course. Thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing those tips. Scholars, if Latin is your thing, fantastic as well, by the way.
My single thing was going to be going to class too, and I'll just try to connect it to Josh's question here about the changes during COVID, and I think this was even in your questions here that you sent to us, and I think that does have a part to do with it, that when students have gotten used to going to class on Zoom, or most of the time that means not going to class at all, or even if they are in class on Zoom, they're not really paying attention. And so, yeah, the ability is not the right word, but yeah, just the habit. I guess that's the right thing. The habit of going to class every day is something that's so huge and needs to be number one.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add, Connor. All of this is good advice. We should move on to the next question.
Sounds good. And also, if I go silent for a minute, I'm sorry, I'm checking the chat as well. So, and we do have a great question in chat as well that we can go ahead and answer. Actually, first, if we wouldn't mind, maybe we can go back to Josh's question about COVID and if that changed the classroom experience at all, or what you do. Professor, I love the cat as well, our extra panelist today. But sorry, the question was, yeah, has COVID changed any of your policies in the classroom? Has it changed the way you teach? Or on the student side, have you noticed anything different coming back in a mostly traditional year now, coming out of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think I just said it in my last response.
You did, thank you.
I would say I burned out too during COVID, to be honest. And it's taken me probably about this long to feel like spring has sprung, not just outside, but also inside my office. So it was easy for me to kind of empathize with students, even post-COVID. So the stress of meeting deadlines, this year I have been much more, and last year, but since we came back, I've been much more open to, I've always been open to conversations, but I've tried to be pretty disciplined about, well, it's been on your syllabus, you should have known about it, didn't you put it in your planner, kind of thing. But I've been more open to students saying, I just can't make it. And then I think, is it going to make a difference if they, turn it in the next day versus the other students? Oftentimes they give me a reason. I mean, there has to be a reason. But that's one where I will co-create deadlines with, like, my MBA students. I'll say, here's what I had on the schedule. Is this going to work with everybody? Because they also have, other school responsibilities and things that they're doing that I'm not aware of. They have MBA activities and things like program activities that I'm not necessarily aware of. So that's one where I think I've been much more understanding and empathetic. I also now, during COVID, took the advice of many experts about leaving time for connecting. So, for example, I didn't allow students to not show their cameras for the whole time. So I'm actually going to ask you, Connor, to invite people to turn their cameras on when we say goodbye, or at least their microphones on, just to make that human connection. So I've incorporated other sort of mindfulness, gratitude exercises, a mindful minute at the beginning of class, because frankly, I noticed it before COVID. Students, that was sort of the whole distress of students, and there were more overdoses, there were more suicides. That was happening before COVID. So I was kind of aware of it then, but COVID kind of pushed me over, like, okay, I'm just going to do this because this is good for everybody, me and everybody. Kind of a holistic approach, I guess.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, let me also add a little something on top of what Professor Tolan is telling us, and all of those sort of negatives, the lessons we learned or we're trying to learn from the ongoing pandemic. It's absolutely, it's very significant. It isn't all doom and gloom, though. There are certain positives that we can also carry forward. I mean, it's up to us. Even this meeting that we're holding right now over Zoom, that we all have the infrastructure to do this. We all think we can do this. We can spare it an hour in our pajamas and still be intellectually engaged with something. It is even the culture of Zoom, just like we were talking about how there's a sign language of doing these things. I mean, there's a benefit to that. These are experiences we gained, we worked hard to gain. And now whenever there is a public talk that's at Cornell, that's at whatever, somewhere else, and I know that it might be interesting to a particular student of mine that pops to my mind, I send them that, they can join that. So there's all kinds of ways now that we don't have to be on Zoom, but we can be on Zoom. There are certain ways to harvest that too.
That's so true, and it's an excellent point. I don't know that this meeting would have been possible without Zoom, so we do appreciate Zoom. Really quickly, professors, if you have to leave, that's okay, but we might go just about 5 minutes over because I want to ask one more question from chat, one more question, and then we can sort of wrap up with the last kind of goodbyes. But first of all, the question from chat, how would you recommend students with many different interests best figure out their priorities in university?
I'd like to hear from Paul because you, I think, because you're in your role as an undergraduate sort of dean or chair,
director. Yeah, sure.
Director that so you have that's what I'd like.
Yeah,
you have a much diverse, I mean, you're in the math department, but Dornsife is much more diverse than Marshall.
Yeah, I think maybe that's right, but USC just overall is, I think, really good at allowing students to take courses outside of their majors. And we see all the time students that are majoring in math, but also have a minor in cinema, you know, something completely unrelated to math. And so yeah, I think even, I don't know how it works with Marshall, but I assume that you could also have a major in Marshall and a minor in Dornsife, right? So these types of things happen all the time, and I just encourage students to, like I said at the top of this talk, just go through the catalog, and it doesn't matter what school the courses are in, just take those courses that seem interesting to you. And there are going to be some courses that maybe, you know, to go back to that example, maybe you think it might be interesting to take a chemistry course, but then once you get in there, you realize, oh, maybe this isn't for me. But that's helpful information, and so you kind of can weed out the things that really do. That you really are interested in, and the things that maybe you thought you might be, but didn't really work out for you. Yeah, so just experimentation and exploration.
Definitely, and if I can interject here briefly, not only can you have a major in Marshall and a minor in Dornsife, you can have a major in Marshall and a major in Dornsife, which is what I'm doing. So as you're saying, there's so many opportunities to pursue that kind of breadth, and then also figure out where you want to hone in and focus. So thank you very much for sharing that. Professor Erol, I'm sorry, or Tolan, Dr. Tolan.
One other thing, I mean, that was the academic side. And then if you have other interests, I would say as a first year and maybe the beginning of your sophomore year. But as you guys are guiding the first years that are coming in, I would tell them, try as many things as possible. You know, go to the club fair, go to their open houses, look at the events. I don't know from the student side what calendar you would look at. Maybe my USC has a calendar of different events at different places all over campus. Get to different parts of the campus and then explore. And then I'm a big reflection person. So then sit down, you know, with a friend or, you know, one day with a cup of tea and just kind of go, well, that was an interesting week. What worked well for me? Where did I find, you know, energy and strength in that week? What do I want to try again? Or you could do it at the end of the semester. But don't be afraid to try things and then say, like Professor Erol said, was, you know, try things if it wasn't your thing, or it, you know, you don't consider it necessarily a failure, just a learning opportunity. College, USC is probably the biggest learning laboratory that you're going to be in your whole life. And so a laboratory is a place where you go and experiment. So I would encourage you to do that and just try it. You've got priorities, but you'll learn as you go along. You won't always have the answers, when you first start.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic advice. Just in the interest of time, I'm sorry, Professor Erol, we might need to cut your response on that one, but and there's so much more to ask about, right? This has been such excellent advice and mentorship. I think we could do another hour, but in the interest of respect for everyone's time, we're not going to do that. So I do have just one last question for our professors. If there's anything, any opportunity that you would like our students to be made aware of, please feel free to share, or any last piece of advice for particularly our first year students, but also just our scholar community in general.
One thing I can say on that front is that many of the actual physical departments, not just the websites, to go and visit, collect all of the brochures, all of the paperwork that they have there, is a fantastic kind of bird's view of all of the opportunities they have, study abroad opportunities, the requirements for minoring in whatever program you're thinking about, and just socializing in those spaces, collecting that information might be a good way of understanding the territory around you, so that you can kind of optimize your experience.
Yeah, I love that. Marshall, we're not that. I love going to visit Dornsife because it's so alive. You still have bulletin boards. We have video monitors, and we have a different aesthetic over here that sometimes makes me a little frustrated. But enough about me. Is the one program I was going to tell you about, and Connor, we sort of talked about this, and Connor's been involved in it, is the Corey Leadership Program, which is for first year students at Marshall, but we're exploring how we might bring that to other places around campus and welcome other students into other activities. So we'll have speaker series. We'll have some different, what we call Corey challenges, where you can come and learn. I mean, not only are you learning your academic, honing your academic chops, is that you're also here at USC going to be a leader when whether you're here or wherever you land. USC breeds leaders. So if you're interested in anything like that, I'm sure Connor can share my information with you. So that is one. And then take advantage, like back to your talking to your professors, is take advantage of their expertise too. Because I also talk to students and coach students and advise students, not formally. So that's another avenue.
The only thing I can think to add that hasn't already come up is the Progressive Degree Program, the PDP, which is a program for students to do a bachelor's and a master's at the same time. And something that I read, just going back to our conversation about exploring different things, I recently learned that the master's degree and the bachelor's degree don't have to be related at all. And I learned that because, like I said earlier, we had a student apply for a PDP program with a bachelor's in math and a master's in cinematography. And I saw it come across, and at my desk, and I was like, I don't even know what to do with this because it doesn't seem correct. And I asked around, and sure enough, there's no requirement that the two programs have to be related in any way. And so just something to keep an eye on. I know it's a very popular program, and students like hearing about it. So.
Well, thank you all so much. Just one thing I did want to ask of you professors, if it's all right if we do circulate each of your emails, just in case our students have any further follow-up questions. Any more specific questions? We didn't quite get to talk too specifically about some of your involvements, but I wanted to extend once again a very sincere thanks for spending an hour and a few more minutes with us this evening, because your advice was, I think, beyond helpful for our current first years, as well as our incoming first years next year. So actually, I'm gonna take something from Dr. Tolan that we would do at the end of class a lot of the time. And I'm gonna ask you to unmute your mics. You can do your camera as well if you'd like, we'd appreciate it. and we'll try to give our professors a fight on. So we want as many of you as possible because, we don't want a quiet fight on. We're at USC, right?
Be proud.
So let's try and do that. Yeah, be proud. And professors,
Look at
feel
these
free to join
beautiful
in as well.
faces.
Yeah, look at this.
Great.
All right, let's do a countdown. Professors, please feel free to join in as well. All right, we'll do 3, 2, 1. Fight on.
Fight
Fight
on.
Fight
on.
on.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
All right,
Thank you
Everyone
so
have a
much. It
great
was nice
evening.
meeting and chatting with you all.
Bye.
bye. Good night, everyone.